And Bola Tinubu has approved the reappointment of Mele Kyari as Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL. Similarly, the president appointed Pius Akinyelure of the non-executive board chairman, while Umar Isa Ajiya was assigned the NNPCL Chief Financial Officer. According to the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the President, Ajuri Ngelale, the appointment is in compliance with Section 59, Subsection 2 of the Petroleum Industry Act 2021. Other appointees into the role of non-executive directors are Ledum Miti, Musa Tumsa, Gali Mohammed, Professor Mustafa Aliyu, David Ogbodo, and Ms. Eunice Thomas. Also, President Tinubu approved the appointment of 2 permanent secretaries. They are Okokong Ekanem Udo as Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Finance, and Ambassador Gabriel Adoda as Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources. Now, joining me on the news to discuss this is Team Lead Platforms Africa and also an energy policy expert. He is no other person but Adeola Yusuf. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me on the news, Adeola.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on the program.
All right, let's start with your expert's opinion on how the NNPCL has performed under Kyari's leadership. Does his performance in the last tenure justify his appointment in any way?
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, we all understand that immediately the president came on board on May 29 this year. Part of what is said that we still have his remnants around was the issue about removal of subsidy. That's a pointer to the fact that the oil industry, particularly the NNPC that plays a vital role in that industry, is so key, so central to the government. Having said that, we all understand that Mele Kyari has spent 4 years. His tenure reached 4 years in July because he assumed the office on the 8th of July, 2019, before COVID. And he was the 19th GMD of NNPC. Fortunately enough, or the other way, he's the first to be appointed the GCEO of NNPCL. Because it was under his leadership that NNPC transited from being a government-owned, quote and unquote, to a limited company, privately owned. And that is a lot of works and a lot of responsibilities. You understand that he has spent over 30 years in the NNPC, transversing, virtually everywhere within the company. Now, his appointment or reappointment has generated news, discussion, talks around Nigeria, and for 2 reasons. Number one, that is so major, is the one that I've just highlighted, how central the oil and gas industry is central to the Nigerian economy, to totality of what happens in the country. The second reason is that it has become a tradition in Nigeria that anytime we have a new government, something must happen to 3 institutions. The first one be the Central Bank of Nigeria. Most times, if you look back, you see that a new government immediately comes on board. There will be a change, of guard at the Central Bank of Nigeria. The second one is at the EFCC, which is the anti-graft, agency. You will see that, if you look back, oftentimes, immediately a government comes on board, there will be a change at that institution too. Then the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited was a corporation before. Immediately a government comes on board, the next thing Nigerians will expect will be a change of guard or leadership at the NNPC. Now, after that May 29, inauguration of President Bola Tinubu in Nigeria, what Nigerians, majority of them expected happened to the EFCC. The former, chairman of EFCC was removed. Then the same thing happened to the Central Bank of Nigeria.
All right,
where
Mr. Adeola, please, can we just stick to Mele Kyari? We actually understand what you're saying, but let's just stick to his performance in the last 4 years. You know, how well did you think he actually did?
Okay, so maybe because of short of time for people to understand. So now the NNPC does no nothing happened to Mele Kyari. In actual fact, he was reappointed by President Bola Tinubu. So that is to show that he has been able to do a lot of things to impress the president. Part of what we have seen that he did was that for the first time in the history of the NNPC, over 40 years, the books of NNPC, the financials of NNPC was published. Before they'll be audited, we have audited accounts of NNPC, but for over 30 years, we don't have those audited account published. So for the first time ever in the history of NNPC, under Mele Kyari, the books or the financials of NNPC were published for everybody to see. That's number one. Then number two, we could see aggressiveness in communication. What I meant by that is that direct communication from the man at the helm of affairs of NNPC. Through his Twitter handle, now X handle, he has been able to, a lot of reports that you have read by journalists or by newspapers or television stations in the country, were quoted him, saying that on his Twitter space. On his Twitter handle. And another thing is that you could see that even though we have pockets of fuel queues, during his tenure, you could see that before, any time is Yuletide, any time is November going into December, we usually have, it has become, almost always a tradition in a country that any time we are moving closer to Yuletide, there will be fuel scarcity. Nigerians usually suffer fuel scarcity. So when he came on board, he has been able to at least manage that. That doesn't mean that we don't have pockets of that, but from experience, he has been able to, ensure that.
Adeola, you've actually talked about some of the benefits. Now, no doubt, the future of the corporation and, by extension, the Nigerian economy largely depends on oil revenues, right? But are there any drawbacks to his reappointment, considering that he'd already spent 4 years and, is projected to spend another 4 years? Okay.
Actually, because the president is the one expected to, see whether he has done, as expected, like I alluded to it, there are other important institutions that have their, the people at the helm of affairs removed. So that is number one to show that the president is impressed by that. But now, to talk of the NNPC, that NNPC just transited from being, NNPC to NNPCL, a limited company. And you will need, I think you don't need to, start removing when you know that the person there is doing something that has impressed you. So, because that is going to distort a lot of things. So, that is to show that there is no policy somersault, there is, proper transitioning, so that that is the first, like I said earlier, is the first GCEO of NNPCL.
But were there other candidates that could have been, considered for this particular position aside Mele Kyari?
Of course, Nigeria is a country of over 200 million people. A lot of people, but a lot of people are, as well competent. But like I said earlier, this is the first year of NNPCL as a company. You remember after the Petroleum Industry, Act, has been, signed by former President Muhammad Buhari, NNPC changed from being NNPC to NNPCL. And that has, made publication of his financials, mandatory now, and a lot of other things. We heard of a lot of plans that they have after, the company has transited from being NNPC to NNPCL. And someone that has, like I said, he has spent over 30 years within that, system. It was at some point the representative of Nigeria at OPEC. It was at some point the head of the crude oil marketing at NNPC. So many other responsibilities that he shouldered. So now that he was the first, having spent about 1 year as the head of NNPCL, I think maybe that has qualified him in the perspective of the president to make sure that it takes that cooperation to a level where other people can feature. Definitely there will be other people aspiring for that. But I think in the wisdom of the president, he felt because he wouldn't want to fail. Because of how important the oil and gas industry is to. So in his wisdom, he has reappointed him. But it's important that I say this, that as much as the Mele Kyari will impress the president, he should try his best as well to impress Nigerians, because everything Nigerians do are intertwined with what happens in the oil and gas industry.
Well, it does look like, he has his portfolio is packed. But then just before we go, how will his appointment impact the NNPCL's relationship, not just with Nigerians, or with the president, but with other stakeholders, industry players, international investors, and other business partners as well?
Okay, thank you so much. It sends a signal that there is stability, because NNPC is in partnership through JV, through so many other contracts with companies outside of the country, international companies. And you know that oil and gas is an internationally traded commodity. So if anything happens, if there is repeated change of guard at the NNPC, it will send a negative signal to investors. It will send a negative signal to a lot of people. So now that the man has been reappointed, I think it will give the sense of stability to a lot of investors. They will know that, okay, maybe a lot of, in fact, there are a lot of infrastructure that he has started as the GCO, first GCO of NNPC, and a lot of investors have even, put money on ground for those investments. So if the person they have been speaking to eventually or suddenly they see that that person has been changed, it's going to send some, it means that at least the negotiation will have to start from the scratch again, maybe. So it's that is reappointed shows clearly, because we are not talking politics, we are talking business. It is going to send that sense of stability to investors.
All right, well, thank you so much, Adeola Yusuf, Team Lead Platforms Africa, and also an energy policy analyst. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio to speak about this.
My pleasure.